actually a collector of stories, of objects, of textiles, during the course of my travels. And I had been doing this for the entire time that I had been traveling in the Himalayas. And so many of the things that I had collected were peculiar to the Tibetan community in exile. Their crafts, their handicrafts, their textiles, and I used to talk to them. So their stories. And suddenly, when I went to McLeodganj, all this fell into place for me. I also had been looking at a lot of the stories, the folk tales, the narratives that are contained within the frescoes in the monasteries, and that has a huge impact on my work as well. I mean, I'm very, very fond of frescoes, and I actually travel to different locations in India, in South Asia, in Southeast Asia, sort of following fresco painting because I'm very drawn to it. And the other thing which, because having trekked in a lot of these regions, I also realized that a large part of this aesthetic is actually derived from the landscape itself. When you see those misty clouds rising above the mountains, and you see they look like the forms, animal forms and celestial forms in this, when the clouds are rising above the mountains. That's how they look, and you realize where this aesthetic is coming from. So all of this actually found its way into my work. I've always been deeply interested in textiles, and the sort of layering of history that you see in textiles from different regions. I mean, it is one of sort of most layered objects that you can find. And also the most interesting thing about textiles is that they travel so easily that textiles tend to move geographies, and that's why there is a constant layering that occurs with textiles. So this has also interested me a lot, and all of this actually finds its way into my work. I've used a lot of religious symbols from my work, from the Buddhist pantheon, or symbols that are peculiar to the Buddha in my work, because these signify the principles on which the Tibetan Buddhists live their lives. And they govern their way of life, and that is why these are there so much in my work. Tibet, at the end of the day, is this icy plateau. So whether which was inhabited mostly by herdsmen, yak herdsmen. So, and it had a completely different way of life. So whether these young Tibetans who are brought up in a completely different environment, whether they, even if they went back to Tibet, whether they would ever be able to live there. These are all questions, which came about in my mind, and that is the point at which this project sort of fell into place for me. And all this material that I had been collecting for such a long time, I started, looking at it in terms of turning it into a project that talked about not just the condition of exile itself, but also the predicament that faces the Tibetan community, because they are in this state of limbo in India, where they neither belong and nor do they unbelong. It's a strange state that they're in.